Hey guys, I just wanted to come on here real quickly and talk about some news that kind of caught a lot of people by surprise. And everybody that's talked about it, has their own opinion, when it comes to this news coming out. Tonight, or last night on SmackDown, it was announced, basically WWE doing a segment with Charlotte, and some people did live reactions with the cameras and stuff because they were there in the arena, in which you can find here on YouTube. It was basically WWE announced about, I would say, 19, a majority of 19 women, or at least less than 19 or something like that, that are going to be in the Women's Royal Rumble match. Now, the issue with that is that the women's division isn't that deep anymore like it used to be. But now, because of that, they have to rely on bringing back some returning names. And some of the returning names they're bringing back are Michelle McCool, Kelly, Summer Rae. That was a notification I got there on my video on my phone. I do apologize if you heard that. But yeah, some of the names they're bringing back are Kelly, Michelle McCool, Summer Rae, Lita. Just a bunch of others. And they announced some of the current stars that are current women superstars that are going to be part of it, like Naomi, Leah, Carmella, Zelina. Charlotte, of course, is entering herself into it because I guess they got nothing really to do for her. You know, just a lot of names thrown out there. And then one name that came up on the Titantron and doing the segment, when they were announcing this, they were showcasing this. Um, one name that came up that they were talking about, that was mentioned as one of the participants, was Mickie James. And the reason her name, when it got brought up along with some of the women that are going to be part of this, the reason her name got brought up the way it did, or basically was brought up the way it was more so than all the other names that were mentioned, like Summer Rae, Kelly, Michelle McCool, Lita. The reason her name got talked about the most is because, as the title of this live stream says, she is currently the Impact Knockouts champion. Now, she is scheduled, ladies and gentlemen, to defend the Knockouts championship at a Texas Death Match tonight, I should say. She is scheduled to defend it in a Texas Death Match tonight in Dallas, Texas. So at least at the factory, in the outskirts, or within the outskirts or inner skirts, or whatever you want to call it. Basically, the factory basically this factory pavilion, or this building, if you will, that mostly holds concerts and all that. She's going to defend the title in a Texas Death Match against Deonna Purrazzo. Now, what's interesting about this is whether or not, she's going to drop the championship. Now, one would assume that she will drop the championship because now she's going to be in the Rumble match, so it only makes sense that, hey, if she's going to be in the Rumble match, she's got to drop the belt, right? And that is true. That is true. That would make sense. Her dropping the title to Deonna, and then pretty much going to St. Louis, I should say. Excuse me, there, with the without the Impact title and participating in the match. Now, here's what's interesting. I know there's been history in the past where WWE has, has had basically champions from other promotions participate in the Rumble. We know that. The only thing is they would never bring their championship with them, and WWE would never acknowledge them as champion of said promotion, even if people knew what promotion they were champion of. So they've done that in the past. The other thing that's interesting about this, though, is everybody brings up the fact that Mickie James is not under contract to Impact Wrestling. She's just helping them out. She's basically on loan from the NWA, from the National Wrestling Alliance. And that is indeed true. And and that basically that pretty much, kind of shuts down any speculation of WWE now, diving in or or throwing their name into the ring in or through the forbidden door that was pretty much blasted open towards the end of last year and the beginning of this year by AEW, if you know what I mean. But yeah, basically it was, a lot of people from JD, Solid Monster, Just Alex, and I'm sure OTR Central will talk about this too. Basically, a lot of them have said, hey, cool your jets. There's no possible partnership going on here with Impact Wrestling and WWE just because this is happening. Just because Pat McAfee acknowledged that, acknowledged on air that Mickie James is the current Impact Knockouts champion. Basically they're just, a lot of them are saying, hey, don't make a big deal out of something that's just a one-time deal. And a lot of people, and a lot of them are saying she ain't gonna last that long anyway. Oh, she might last 5 seconds. Oh, she might last a minute. She might last this and that. And here's the thing, I hear this, and then I can also hear people that hear it themselves, and they're like, what is wrong with these guys? She might last in there for, yeah, she might get eliminated, but she might last 10, 15 minutes. Why are they so negative about her being in the match and how long she's gonna last? Well, it goes back to the way she was treated last year. When she was let go, she had a lot of her belongings that she had left, that they basically have to leave behind sometimes or, have stored up. She had a lot of those belongings sent back to her in a trash bag, which she posted on social media. And a lot of people from JD to Just Alex and Solid Monster and all them, felt that was wrong. And Mickie herself felt it was wrong. But now all of a sudden, here she is, not even a year later, and she's going to be in this match, even if it's a one-time deal. And they don't trust, they don't trust WWE to treat her well. They don't trust the company to treat her well, even for one time, even for a one-night appearance in the Rumble match. They don't trust her. I mean, they don't trust them, not her, but them, that being WWE. They don't trust them at all. And it's not just that either. Some of them, like JD, feel that Mickie James is being hypocritical. Like, she says one thing, she shows what they've done, she calls them out about this and all that. And yet, she's deciding to give them another shot. She's deciding to say, hey, I'll come back, I'll help you out here. And it's like, to them, it's like, what are you doing, Mickie? Why would you go back to these people even for one night? They don't care about you. And by doing so, you make yourself look like an idiot. You make yourself look like a hypocrite. That's why you hear a lot of negativity. That's why you hear them even saying, hey, cool your jets about this whole, WWE throwing their name into the forbidden, through the forbidden door, along with the AEWs and Impacts and all these other companies. Forget that, because it's not going to happen. Not going to happen, whatsoever. But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing that they seem to forget, okay? Here's the thing they seem to forget. WWE has already done the Forbidden Door. As much as we hate to say it, they have. They have done the Forbidden Door. Let me explain. 1990, what is it, 1997? 1997. Forbidden Door opened, no, okay, I'll put it this way. Late 96, early 97, Forbidden Door was open between WWE and AAA. And oh, by the way, who was AAA partnered up with as well at the same time? WCW. And yet WWE was also partnered up with them in 1997, 96, 97. Okay? Who did they open the doors up to real wide? And they didn't have to give them exposure. ECW. Did they have to give them exposure? No. Did they have to help them out behind the scenes financially? No. But they did. And thus they had opened a forbidden door to two promotions within a short amount of time. And the forbidden door to ECW was helping promote ECW's Barely Legal pay-per-view, the first pay-per-view. And on top of that, they allowed one of their episodes of Raw at the Manhattan Center, for at least 1 hour of it, to become ECW programming. With ECW matches and stuff. And if that's not enough, how about late 97, to mid 1998? Huh? There was another forbidden door that they went through. The NWA. Yeah, the NWA wasn't as relevant as it is now, but they went through it. They allowed NWA championships to be showcased on their programming, and to an extent, they allowed some superstars to participate in NWA live events. I mean, how do you think the new Midnight Express lost the NWA World Tag Titles to, the Border Patrol, the State Patrol, whatever they call themselves? They lost it at an NWA live event. So WWE's been there, done that, even before AEW made it. Even before AEW went out and made it cool to this day. Made it cooler than what it was then to, nowadays, I should say. They've been there, done that. Maybe not to the extent, like AEW is doing, because AEW is offering, anybody to come through, from Japan, AAA, CMLL, NWA, you name it. They're offering anybody to come through. Anybody. But again, as much as we hate to admit it, WWE's already been there, done that. They've been there, they've done that, and for them to basically throw their hat into the forbidden door once again, this new forbidden door that AEW, everybody claims, has busted open, at the end of last year into the beginning of this year, for them to, throw their name, through that door, to at least get Mickie to come in, that's something that nobody expected them to do ever again. Nobody expected them to do that ever again. Yeah, they'll reference a company here in, AEW here and there, all right? But they won't let their talent show up unless there's some kind of a deal. Which, oh, by the way, speaking of that, how do you think they got Ric Flair for the Hall of Fame induction of the Four Horsemen? How do you think they did that? They made a deal with TNA/Impact Wrestling. You give us Ric Flair for the Hall of Fame, we'll give you Christian Cage to introduce Sting as the newest inductee into your Hall of Fame. And that's what they did. So guess what? They've been there even as recent as the early to mid 2010s. With Impact. They've done that. They've done this already. So it's not a first time. It's not a first time. We have to remember that. We have to all remember that. Now, will it lead to a partnership between the two? That's hard to say. That's up to Nick Khan. That's up to Vince McMahon. That's up to Bruce Pritchard, Kevin Dunn. That's up to them. Nick Khan, for all the negative stuff he's doing, everybody's pointing at him for doing, I should say. He is a businessman. And he realizes, well, if we're going to keep our fans satisfied and happy, maybe we should try what AEW is doing and do it better. And that might be what's going on here. Maybe they're, testing something here to see how fans will react. That may be what they do. And again, and here's the thing, again, JD, Just Alex, and Salamasa and all of them have said in their own way that, Mickie James is not under contract to Impact Wrestling. She's helping them out. She's on loan from the NWA. She is part of the NWA, the women's division, on screen and behind the scenes. So, for all we know, this could be the way of working with the NWA. Because if you compare the two, who is the more lesser threat? The NWA. That's the more lesser threat than Impact Wrestling. And the only reason that you're doing this period, and that's another notification on my phone, I do apologize. The only reason they're doing this too, when it comes to both of them, is neither one of them is on a national platform like AEW. You think if Mickie James was part of AEW right now, that they would have brought her in to be part of this? No. Because people know they could see her every Wednesday and Friday night. They know that. And to an extent, every Monday and Tuesday. They know that. But because she's not part of AEW, because she's part of NWA, because she's helping out Impact Wrestling, and both of them are on smaller platforms, if you will, that not everybody gets, if at all, except for YouTube, that being the NWA, and Fight, but even still, because they're on smaller platforms than, big time national cable networks, it makes it easier for WWE to say, hey, we'll work with these people and maybe, try and maybe create some kind of partnership that allows us to have talent come in from their area and maybe send talent like NXT talent or PC talent over to them to get more seasoning, to get more training, especially in live matches. That might be what's going on. And again, it's all because Impact, and mostly, I think, more so with NWA, on a smaller scale than AEW. So, do I think this Mickie James thing will lead to anything? I don't know. Will this lead to Mickie James dropping the belt to Deonna tonight at Hard to Kill? That's hard to say. I mean, for all we know, she might retain it, and as part of the deal, she's going to give Impact a lot more exposure, at the Dome and America's Gateway in St. Louis. So that might happen too. We can't say. We can't really say. But yeah, Mickie James, being in the Rumble, I think is great. I think for Impact Wrestling, it's great exposure. I think for the NWA, it's great exposure. Even though people can watch the NWA on Friday nights on YouTube and everything, and in NWA USA on Saturdays on YouTube and on Fight, I think even though these are great platforms to be showcased on, I think honestly, it's great exposure for them. Because think about it this way: if you watched NWA Power's return to YouTube last night, their premiere return, it looks like they're setting up a title for title match, between Mickie James and Carmella, if you will. And if they do that, who's to say Carmella? I think that's her name, not Camille. Who's to say Camille won't be one of the mystery ladies in the Rumble as part of this new little partnership, if there is one? Just saying, you put Camille in the Rumble as the NWA Women's Champion, and she's in there at the same time as the Impact Champion is, her next challenger, basically. Not only does it give Impact and like I said, more so to an extent, the NWA exposure, but it gets people to tune in, through that exposure to the NWA on YouTube, with Power and USA to see what happens next, to see where they're going to go next. And in the long run, it doesn't become a threat to WWE because they're not on national cable television like AEW. So it's kind of a win-win. It's kind of a win-win if that's what's going on. So we'll see what happens. But to me, either way, it's great exposure for both NWA and Impact. And it might, like I said, it might lead to the fact that Camille, the NWA Women's Champion, might show up in the Rumble as a participant, as a surprise participant, I should say, and help, continue the story between her and Mickie through there. And like I said, allow people that may not know about, this feud going on to tune into Power and USA on YouTube to see what they do next. So it's a good exposure. It's a win-win. And in the long run, it doesn't pose a threat to WWE. When it comes to the NWA or Impact, because they're on platforms not everybody gets or utilizes. Well, everybody utilizes YouTube, but they don't watch Impact. They don't watch wrestling that much on YouTube unless it's something they're invested in. And Impact's on Access as well as Twitch, and they don't use Twitch to watch Impact. They use Twitch to play games. So it gives them great exposure. And like I said, in the end, it proves to be a non-threatening factor to WWE, unlike what AEW would be. Just saying. But what are your thoughts on Mickie James being in the Rumble? Do you think this is a good thing, for both the NWA and Impact, get them good exposure? Do you think WWE is doing this because they realize, hey, if we work a partnership out with these two companies, or at least the NWA, to an extent, that it's a non-threatening partnership because they're not on a big platform, cable platform, and all that, like we are, or like AEW is? Do you think that's why you think that's something that's going to come out of it? What are your thoughts overall? Or do you think maybe this is just a one-time deal? What do you think? Comment down below. Live chat during the premiere. Like the video. Check me out at my Teespring store. Also check me out at BW Rose's Discussions, all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. Also check me out at BW Roses on VENMO. Also check me out at Venmo at Brian-Walmer-2. And also check me out at patreon.com/BW Roses to support me with the $1 or $3 tier. And if you're listening to the BW Roses Discussions podcast on Anchor.fm, listener support is activated if you want to help support me there. And if you're listening to the podcast on various podcast affiliates like Spotify or Amazon that allow video podcasting as well as audio, you got two opportunities to check out the podcast in audio and podcast and video, I should say, podcast for. But again, let me know what your thoughts are, guys. And that's about it. I'm going to go lie down now. It's late. And I will talk to y'all later. Peace out. God bless.